Hello my dear friends, today I'm talking about the hidden side of each rising sign. If your sun sign tells you who you are at the soul level, your rising sign tells you how you appear in the world, your interface with the reality. It is the way people read you the first time they meet you. It's also the energy with which you begin your day and the way your body responds to stress, joy, and challenges. But here it's what is rarely mentioned, because most of the time we don't want to know our hidden side. We don't like it. The rising sign had a hidden side, and shadow, a pattern operating in the background that you may not even notice. Sometimes people know you better through your rising sign than you know yourself. So in this vlog, I want to talk about what each sign side hides, why it hides it, and what you can practically do with this information. It's not about theory. There are some practical advices. If you do not know your exact birth time to discover your rising sign, you can request a rectification from the down below link. The rising sign also describes your general physical appearance, the way your body is built, the first impression you create, how you approach new and unexpected situations, your relationships with your body and physical health, and the unconscious shadows. About Aries rising. What the world sees. Aries rising is unmistakable. You walk into the room and people feel that someone has arrived, not necessarily because you are doing anything special. You simply have a presence that energizes the space. You are direct, fast-moving, and sometimes abrupt. People always know where they stand with you, and this is good. You do not tiptoe around issues. You go straight to the heart of the matter. Physically, many Aries rising natives seems to carry an energy in their body that never quite settles. You move quickly, gesture a lot, and speak with intensity. Even if your sun sign is naturally introverted, Aries rising makes often you appear outgoing and energetic. There is a visible vitality about you, a sense of urgency in your being. People see you as courageous, proactive, and action-oriented. You are often the first to speak up, take initiative, or propose a solution. This energy is a genuine gift. It's not a performance. It's simply your natural way of existing. Let's see about hidden side. What is rarely said about Aries rising is that beneath of all energy lies a deep fear of being left behind, becoming irrelevant, or losing life's pace. Aries rising acts quickly, not only because it enjoys speed. It acts like this because standing still creates anxiety on a visceral level. Slowness, waiting, and prolonged uncertainty are not minor inconveniences. They feel like genuine threats. The mind interprets stagnation as a danger. The paradox is that this very haste often becomes self-sabotage. Aries rising may make decisions before gathering enough information. It starts projects with tremendous enthusiasm, but struggles to finish them once the initial excitement fades. It says things impulsively and later wonders why relationships experience friction. There is also an emotional sensitivity hidden beneath the bravado. Criticism hurts far more than it appears. A similarly neutral comment can feel like a direct attack. Yet, because their presence is so strong and active, few people think to ask how they truly feel, and they themselves are not used to asking for that support. Aries rising often struggles with authority imposed from the outside, not because it is rebellious by principle, but because attempts to control its rhythm trigger and almost automatic resistance. This can create unnecessary conflicts in work and relationships. What you can do? Practice intentional pauses. Before making an important decision, give yourself 24 hours waiting period. I know it's too long for you, but try it. Finish one thing before starting another. Keep a list of ongoing projects and complete something before adding a new commitment. When you feel the urge to react immediately, drink a glass of water first. The pause interrupts the impulse action cycle. Find physical outlets for your energy. Exercise, dancing, or brisk walking help clear the mind and reduce impulsiveness. Also look at the placement of Mars in your natal chart. Since Mars is ruling your rising sign, pay attention to its sign, house, and aspects. Taurus rising. What the world sees. Taurus rising radiates stability. You are the kind of person who makes others feel safe without them fully understand why. Your voice is usually calm and pleasant. Your movements are deliberate. Your presence feels solid, like a tree with deep roots. You have refined tastes in food, beauty, and comfort. Beautiful things attract you, and you are willing to invest in them. You know how to savor sensory experiences, a good meal, captivating music, or a pleasant fabric against your skin. You live through your body more than many people do. Others see you as a reliable, stable, and realistic. You are often the person people turn to when they need a balanced perspective rather than drama. You are the anchor of the group. But let's see which are the hidden sides. Taurus rising secretly struggles with a rigidity that can be costly. It's beautiful stability, while a gift can become a wall when it comes to fundamental change, especially change that requires letting go of something familiar. People with Taurus rising may remain in situations that no longer serve them, relationships that ended emotionally long ago, jobs that have bored them for years, places that no longer fit, or routines that drain them simply because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty. For Taurus rising, change is not merely uncomfortable. It can feel like an existential threat. The mind registers uncertainty as a real danger, and the instinctive response is to dig in deeper rather than move forward. A deeper secret is the presence of jealousy and possessiveness, usually hidden beneath a polished exterior. Taurus rising rarely talks about these feelings and tends to process them internally. This possessiveness extends not only to people, but also to possessions. Taurus rising becomes deeply affected to its home, belongings, and familiar places. Losing them can feel like a deeply personal loss. Taurus rising may also struggle with indulgence, swinging between periods of discipline and periods of excess. While finding balance can be difficult, guilt around pleasure is often a recurring theme. What you can do? Make a list of the things you keep for security rather than joy. Intentionally expose yourself to small and frequent changes. When jealousy or possessiveness appears, simply name it without judgment. Create transition rituals to help yourself adapt to change, or prepare your change for the future, step by step. Work with your body rather than against it. Long walks, good food, quality rest, and grounding activities are especially beneficial. Also, examine the placement of Venus in your natal chart, because Venus is ruling your rising sign. Pay attention to its sign, house, and aspects. Gemini rising. What the people sees. You are witty, quick-minded, controversial, and adaptable to almost any social situation. With Gemini rising, you are the type of person who feels comfortable in any group, who can effortlessly jump from the topic to another, and who always seems to be up to date with everything. You carry a youthful energy regardless of your actual age. People often perceive you as younger than you really are. You gesture while speaking, using hands like Italians. Your facial expressions are lively and expressive. You can talk to anyone about anything, from politics to receipts, from philosophy to reality shows. You are the kind of person who makes parties more interesting, makes waiting in line more bearable, and turns a boring journey into a fascinating conversation. You also possess an agile mind that quickly recognizes connections, makes clever observations, and can follow several conversational threads at the same time. People find you stimulating, engaging, and alive. Let's talk about hidden side. Gemini rising often hides a chronic underlying anxiety and a profound lack of inner stillness. All the movements are in part a way of avoiding being alone with your thoughts. The mind of a Gemini rising never truly stops. Even at night, on vacation, or during moments that should be relaxing, thoughts continue to flow, branch out, contradict each other, return and jump to something new. Because their outward presence is so animated and social, few people suspect that inside there is sometimes an almost unbearable level of mental noise. Insomnia is common, not because they are unhealthy, but simply because their brain refuses to switch off even when the body desperately needs rest. Gemini rising often struggles with consistency and depth in certain areas, not because they lack intelligence, quite the opposite. Their mind is constantly attracted to what is new, stimulating, and unexplored. This gives them tremendous breadth of knowledge and adaptability, but it can also leave them somewhat superficial in areas where they might excel if they committed to sustained effort. There is also a subtle tendency to say what others want to hear, not necessarily out of the conscious manipulation, but from a desire to maintain conversational harmony, to be liked, and to avoid conflicts. Gemini risings are masters of social adaptation, but sometimes they lose touch with their own voice in the process. Another less discussed is about physical restless. Restless hands, bouncing legs, a tendency to eat quickly or drive fast. The nervous system of a Gemini rising is constantly activated, and this can have long-term physical consequences if not managed consciously. What you can do? Practice 10 minutes of complete silence every day. Okay, I know it's too long for you, but try it. No phone, no music, no podcast, no conversation. Just you and the silence. It will feel uncomfortable at the first, and that discomfort is preciously the sign that you need the practice. Gradually, you will discover that when your mind is given space to settle, it contains resources and depth that are inaccessible while you are constantly in motion. Choose one field of study each year and explore it deeply. not instead of your inner interest, but in addition to them. Allow yourself to become an expert in something, not just knowledgeable. Depth brings a different kind of satisfaction and authority, something Gemini rising often miss because of the sheer breadth of their interest. When you feel the urge to agree with someone, even though you do not, pause and say, "Interesting, but let me think about it." It is a polite phrase that buys you time and helps you practice expressing your own perspective instead of dissolving into someone else's opinions. Keep a thought journal before bed. Write down everything that is on your mind, unorganized and chaotic if necessary. It is a way of empty your mind before sleep, giving your thoughts somewhere to go instead of letting them circulate internally all night. Cultivate at least one genuinely deep relationship. Gemini rising tend to have many acquaintances, but few truly close friends. Investing in a handful of meaningful relationships is far more nourishing in the long run than maintaining a vast but superficial social network. Look at the placement of Mercury in your natal chart, because this planet rules your rising sign. Pay attention to the sign, house, and aspects it forms. This will provide additional insight into how your Gemini rising expresses itself. Cancer rising, what the world sees. Cancer rising radiates warmth and empathy from the very first encounter. People feel heard and understood around you in a way that is increasingly rare. You are the kind of person who remembers details about other people's lives. You possess a nourishing and protective qualities regardless of gender. Sometimes within you naturally wants to care for others, keep them safe, and create comfortable spaces. Your home is usually welcoming. Conversations with you feel like a shelter. The hidden side. Cancer rising often hides behind the role of caregiver because it's too afraid to ask for itself. It feels much easier to give. It feels safer to be the person others depend on than to express your own needs and risk being rejected, judged as weak, or worst of all, abandoned. People with the Cancer rising possess an emotional life of extraordinary depth and richness, but much of it remains hidden. They present the world with their functional, supportive, helpful self. True vulnerability with tears, fear, and authentic needs, it's reserved only for their closest relationships, and sometimes for no one at all. Actually, it's very hard to ask for a rising sign in Cancer to understand their needs. They will avoid to ask. Another hidden pattern is about that can be extremely emotionally reactive on the inside while maintaining a calm and warm exterior. A neutral comment may feel like veiled criticism. Sometimes absence may be interpreted as deliberate rejection. A change in tone may be perceived as disapproval. Yet all of this interpretation happens internally, while outwardly you continue to display a warm smile and a willingness to help. This creates a painful gap between your inner and outer experience and can lead to resentment toward people who have no idea they have hurt you or offended you. Cancer rising may become cold and distant toward someone without even explaining what caused the hurt in the first place. There is also a tendency to influence others subtly through excessive caregiving not out of manipulation or ill intent, but out of a need to emotionally control the dynamics of relationships. What you can do? Practice asking for specific help once in a week. Ask of something real and concrete. Learn to receive without immediately feeling in debt or compelled to reply the favor. Receiving gracefully is a skill that can be learned, and it enriches relationships profoundly. Notice when you are caring for others to avoid being vulnerable yourself. Ask yourself honestly, am I doing this for them, or am I doing it so that I can feel safe? There is no wrong answer, but awareness is the first step toward change. Express your emotions through words, not only through actions. Set clear boundaries with people who drain your energy. The pain of disappointing someone is often much smaller in reality than you imagine it will be, and certainly smaller than the accumulated pain of constantly putting yourself last. Take care of yourself as well as you take care of others. Ask yourself regularly, what do I need right now? Once you have the answer, act on it as if those needs belong to a dear friend, because you are, or should be, your own dear friend, the best one. Also look at the placement of the moon in your natal chart, since the moon rules your rising sign. Pay attention to the sign, house, and aspects it forms, as this will provide additional insight into how your Cancer rising expresses itself. Leo rising. What the world sees. Leo rising walks into a room and it feels as through the lighting adjusts itself. There is a regal quality in the way you carry yourself. Not really arrogant, but natural. You are generous, warm, and dramatic in the best sense of the word. You know how to capture attention without appearing to seek it. You have humor, presence, and style. Your clothing is often memorable, whether through elegance, bold use of color, or simply because it communicates, I choose this intentionally. You gesture expansively. Your laughter is usually noticeable and contagious. People gravitate toward you. You are ruled by the sun anyway. They invite you to parties. They listen when you speak. You are the one who brings life to the group, creates the atmosphere, and turns an ordinary evening into something memorable. You have a genuine gift for making people feel special when you give them your attention. Which is the hidden side? Leo rising hides one of the most painful insecurities in the zodiac, the fear that without the applause of others, it does not truly exist. Beneath all the radiance lies a question that never completely disappears. Am I good enough if no one is watching? If I do not get the highest grade, receive prize, or stand out, do I still matter for others? The fear of being irrelevant, ignored, or forgotten is one of the hidden driving forces behind Leo rising. Because of this, people with this placement can become dependent on external validation in ways they do not easily recognize. Social media posts that receive too little engagement, accomplishments that go publicly unnoticed, compliments that never arrive in quite the right form. All of this can trigger anxiety that seems disproportionate to their actual importance. Another pattern is an extreme sensitive to criticism. Even when it is received with apparent grace, for Leo rising, criticism is rarely experienced as simple feedback or an opportunity for improvement. It feels like an attack on their fundamental worth as a person. This can sometimes make them difficult to guide or confront constructively, even when others have the best intentions. There is also a tendency to dominate conversations or redirect topics toward personal experiences. Not out of deliberate selfishness, but because of a need to remain at the center of the narrative, Leo rising can be extraordinarily generous, but that generosity sometimes comes with an unspoken expectation of recognition. When the recognition does not arrive in the anticipated form, the disappointment can be intense. What you can do? Do something beautiful without telling anyone about it. I mean, to perform an anonymous act of kindness, achieve something without posting online, or have a conversation where you are not the main character. Train yourself to experience the satisfaction that comes from within rather than from other people's reactions. This is the most stable and mature form of self-esteem. When you receive criticism, wait 24 hours before responding. During that time, ask yourself honestly, is there anything true or useful in what I was told, even if it was delivered poorly? Not whether everything is true, but whether there is a valuable piece of feedback you can use for growth. Practice conscious attention toward others in conversations. Enter interactions with the deliberate intention or making the other person feel seen and heard rather than focusing on yourself. This practice creates deeper relationships and a more authentic sense of fulfillment. Identify your internal sources of self-worth. What do you like about yourself when nobody is watching? What do you do well in your private life? Build your identity on those foundations. They are far more stable than one built on external validation. You have to understand, no matter what you do, there always will be people that will not like what you do, will not like you no matter what you do. People are never satisfied. So, if you put your validation to them, you will be unhappy. Allow yourself to be valuable with the people closest to you. Also, look at the placement of the sun in your natal chart, because the sun rules your ascendant. Pay attention to its sign, house placement, and aspects, as this will provide additional insight into how your Leo rising expresses itself in the world. Virgo rising, what the world sees. Virgo rising always appears organized, competent, and on top of the things. You are the kind of person who has a plan, a backup plan, and a checklist for the backup plan. You are detail-oriented, helpful, and precise. People rely on you because they know you rarely drop the ball. You are modest, discreet, and practical. You do not seek fame or loud recognition. You seek quality and usefulness. You do things well. You know why you are doing them, and you apply your standards constantly. Your work has high quality. Whether it is an email, a project, or the way you organize your workplace, there is a visible care and intention behind it. People notice this, even if they do not always say so. So let's see the hidden side. Virgo rising hides an inner critic that never stops talking, and most of the time it directs its harshest judgment toward itself. The perfectionism of Virgo rising is not simply a positive personal trait. At times, it becomes a weapon and consciously turns against oneself. No achievement is ever good enough. No task is ever truly finished. No version of yourself feels acceptable right now. Perhaps later, after one more improvement. And later never arrives because there is always something else to refine. This creates a difficult relationship with accomplishment and satisfaction. Virgo rising may complete an important project, and instead of celebrating, immediately focus on what could have been done better. It is an exhausting mechanism that steals the joy from personal achievement. Another hidden aspect is about that Virgo rising often carries chronic anxiety on the body. Not necessarily clinical hypochondria, but a constant vigilance toward physical symptoms, discomfort with bodily imperfection, and the tendency to link emotional and physical well-being in ways that can become clinical. Emotional stress produces physical symptoms, and physical symptoms generate even more emotional stress. There is also a tendency to judge others, often silently rather than aloud, in ways that can create distance in relationships. Virgo risings tend to notice flaws before noticing strength, and people can sense this even when nothing is explicitly said. Those around them may feel they are never quite good enough, as though they are being constantly evaluated, even if the Virgo rising individuals has never voiced a direct criticism. What they can do: practice good enough on purpose. Choose one activity each day that you intentionally do well enough rather than perfectly. Send the email without rereading it 5 times. Leave the kitchen almost clean. Submit the project on time instead of spending an extra day refining it. Learn to tolerate small imperfections. They are a muscle that strengthens with practice. Keep an achievement journal, not a mistake journal. At the end of the day, write down 3 things you did well, not what could have been better. When you catch yourself mentally criticizing someone, immediately add one positive quality about them, not to suppress your observation or pretend it is untrue, but to train your mind to see the whole picture rather than a selective one. Both things can be true at the same time. Do something completely unstructured, one in a time. Take a sudden trip. Cook without a receipt. Leave room for an unplanned project. Or follow a road without knowing exactly where it leads. Learn to distinguish health anxiety from healthy self-care. See professionals regularly when appropriate, but establish limits on how often you check symptoms or research potential conditions. Excessive monitoring can amplify anxiety rather than relieve it. Also, look at the placement of Mercury in your natal chart, because Mercury also rules your ascendant. Pay attention to the sign, house, and aspects it forms, as well as they will provide additional insight into how your Virgo rising expresses itself and where your greatest growth opportunities are lying. For Libra rising is graceful, diplomatic, aesthetic, and balanced in your judgment. You know how to mediate conflicts without taking an aggressive stance. You have a knack for making anyone feel at ease, regardless of the context. There is a natural elegance to your language and behavior. You choose your words with care, pay attention to your tone of voice, and remain mindful of how the other person is reacting. Physically, many Libra ascendants possesses a pleasing symmetry of features and a well-groomed presentation. People find you easy to love and highly approachable. You rarely lose your temper in public. The person who can see both sides of a conflict and who helps find a middle ground. But you also have a hidden side. The indecision of a Libra ascendant can be paralyzing, as well as a repressed anger that, when it finally surfaces, comes out ugly and completely disproportionate to the apparent trigger. A Libra's harmony doesn't always stem from authentic inner peace. It sometimes comes from a fear of conflict, the discomfort of disappointing someone, or the anxiety that taking a clear stand will disrupt the balance and ruin relationships. Libra rising people can avoid confrontations so systematically that they allow toxic situations to drag on for far too long, permit their own needs to be ignored year after year, and let their personal boundaries be repeatedly violated. And the indecision is real. It's not just an astrological stereotype. The Libra ascendant sees the pros and cons of any given situation so clearly that choosing can sometimes become impossible. From deciding what food to order at a restaurant to major life choices, the deliberative process can be exhausting for both the people and those around them. The anger exists and it is very real. It is an intense anger directed at injustice. However, because getting angry isn't elegant, and because any sign of emotional imbalance seems unacceptable for a Libra rising, the anger builds up. It is often disproportionate to the immediate trigger. It's not about what just happened. It's about everything that went unsaid over the past month or even years. There is also strong dependence on relationships to define their own identity. Loneliness is not just uncomfortable for a Libra ascendant, it is almost unbearable. This vulnerability sometimes causes them to stay in unhealthy relationships much longer than they should. What you can do? Practice making quick, minor decisions daily. What to eat, what move to watch, which route to take, decide in 30 seconds or less. It's not about making the perfect choice. It's about training your decision-making muscle. Major decisions become easier when you are no longer paralyzed by the small ones. Allow yourself to disagree regularly. Choose at least one situation a day to express an authentic opinion, even if it is unpopular or if it is contradicts someone else. A tolerance for gentle disagreement is built precisely through repeated practice. Identify and name your anger before it builds up. Do this by keeping a journal or simply phrasing it mentally. But by naming the anger the moment it arises, you prevent it from accumulating into an explosion later on. Build your identity independently of relationships. What do you enjoy doing alone? Who are you when you aren't in a relationship with someone? A Libra ascendant needs to cultivate a healthy relationship with themselves. Look at where Venus is in your birth chart, as it rules your ascendant. Note its sign, house, placement, and the aspect it forms. Scorpio rising. What the world sees. Scorpio rising has one of the most powerful presents in the zodiac. You don't have to do anything special. You simply exist, and people feel it. Your eyes are usually remarkable, deep, penetrating, with a quality that communicates everything. You radiate mystery, power, and an intensity that can be magnetic or intimidating, depending on the person in front of you. People either adore you or avoid you. You are rarely ignored or treated with indifference. You have a remarkable intuition for people's hidden motives. You spot a lie quickly. You feel when something is wrong long before things become obvious. This, paired with an iron will, makes you extremely effective at achieving your goals. The hidden side. The Scorpio ascendant, he hides a vulnerability so deep and painful that it has built an almost impenetrable wall around itself. All the power, all the mystery, all the control, these are defense mechanisms. At the core of a Scorpio ascendant lies a fundamental fear of being hurt, betrayed, seen truly, and then abandoned. Because this experience or variations of it usually happened at least once in their life. They decided, sometimes unconsciously, never to let themselves be caught off guard again. The irony is that the exact protective wall keeps the very people who could offer the authentic connection the Scorpio ascendant so deeply craves at a distance. The control of a Scorpio ascendant exerts over their environment, their relationships, the information they share, and the details they withhold is directly proportional to their current level of insecurity. The more threatened they feel, the more controlling they become. This creates distance with the exact people they want to keep close. There is also a pronounced tendency toward all or nothing thinking. You are either completely trustworthy or you are a potential enemy. There isn't much gray area in the world of a Scorpio ascendant. This makes relationships intense and sometimes exhausting, both for the individuals and for those who love them. Resentment is another major challenge. A Scorpio ascendant does not easily forget a wrong and can nurse grudges for years, sometimes decades. Carrying this weight comes at an immense cost to their energy and their openness to life. What you can do? Practice vulnerability in small doses with selected people. You don't have to bare your soul to everyone, but choose one person you consider safe and tell them something real about yourself, a fear, an insecurity, or something you are struggling with. Observe what happens. The world won't fall apart and the relationship will deepen. When you feel the urge to control intensifying, an honest answer is far more useful than any control strategy because it addresses to the root cause rather than the symptom. Practice gradual forgiveness for your own good, not the other person's. Forgiveness doesn't mean you accept what happened, that you forgot, or what you offer a second chance. It simply means giving yourself permission to stop carrying the burden of old pain. Build relationships with people who can handle your intensity. Not everyone can, and that is completely fine. But when you find people who can, invest in those relationships with genuine authenticity rather than constantly testing their loyalty. Practice transparency in small amounts. Every now and then, say what you feel or think before you are perfectly calculated how it will be received. Look at where Mars is in your birth chart, as it rules your ascendant. Note its sign, house placement, and aspect is force. Sagittarius rising sign. What the world sees. This rising sign radiates enthusiasm, adventure, and an expansive worldview. You are the type who says yes to the new experiences, always has a travel plan in mind, and sees possibilities where others see obstacles. You are optimistic, philosophical, and sometimes lean toward preaching. You possess broad knowledge, an open mind. You speak about cultures, ideas, and experiences with a pleasant and contagious authenticity. People feel inspired around you. You have a gift for making life seem bigger, more interesting, and more full of possibilities than it usually appears. Which is the hidden side? Sagittarius ascendant hides a deep fear of being limited. of feeling trapped in any form, and this fear causes them to run away from situations and relationships that could actually fulfill them. The adventure and freedom that Sagittarius rising seeks are not always purely positive choices. Sometimes they are escapes from responsibility, from emotional depth, and from facing the real limits and frictions of adult life. Another pattern is that the Sagittarius rising can make promises they genuinely mean to keep at the moment they make them, but fail to follow through. It's not a deliberate lie. It's over-enthusiasm combined with a complex relationship to the future and commitment. There is also a tendency to preach without fully practicing. The grand visions, philosophical principles, and speeches about freedom, meaning, and authenticity are real and genuine, but implementing them in concrete life, with all its friction and compromise, is a completely different story. What you can do? Actively make a difference between authentic freedom and escape. When you feel the urge to run from a situation, ask yourself, am I running because the situation doesn't align with me, or am I running because it's becoming real, too deep and responsible, and that's terrifying me? An honest answer can save important relationships and opportunities. Honor small commitments systematically. If you said you would call. If you said you would be somewhere at 1 p.m., be there. If you said you would do something by Tuesday, do it. Because credibility is built in the details by action, not in the grand visions. Explore the depth of just one thing per year. Don't try to master every subject. Invest in relationships with people who stimulate your mind. The ideal partner or friend for a Sagittarius ascendant is not someone who gives them endless space without an anchor. Look, where do you have in your natal chart Jupiter, because it's ruling your rising sign. Note its sign, house placement, and the aspect it forms. Capricorn rising, what the world sees. This rising sign projects competence, seriousness, and a maturity that sometimes seems older than their chronological age. You are the type of person people instinctively respect, not because you are authoritarian or intimidating, but because you look like you know what you are doing. You have a plan and you don't play around. You are responsible, ambitious, and strategic. People come to you for practical advice. You are the one who holds things together in times of crisis, remaining calm and functional when others are falling apart. There is a dignity to your presence that people respect without always understanding exactly why. The hidden side. This rising conceals a deep fear of failure and a tendency to tie their entire self-worth to professional and social achievements. This fear generates an extraordinary work ethic. Capricorn rising are often highly productive and accomplished on paper. However, it comes with a heavy price, an inability to fully enjoy what they have built. Their eyes always fixed on what comes next, forever feeling that what exists right now isn't enough. Failure is not just a disappointment for Capricorn rising. It's a threat to their identity. I failed quickly becomes I am a failure. Another hidden pattern is that this rising sign has a rich, sensitive emotional life that they hide flawlessly. The seriousness and distance they project are often perceived by others as coldness or a lack of need for connection. And this creates a real painful loneliness. People don't try to get close to someone who looks like they don't need anyone. Meanwhile, the Capricorn ascendant, who actually does need connection and possesses deep sensitivity, remains lonely in the middle of the crowd. There is also a tendency to put their own needs for joy, rest, and emotional reconnection dead last. There is always something more urgent, more productive, or more responsible to be done. What you can do? Consciously separate your worth as a person from your achievements. You are valuable even if you don't succeed on this project, even if you don't get that promotion, and even if you fall at something major. You are more than your resume, more than your job title, and more than what you have built. This separation is an essential antidote for the fear of failure. Shredder your joy just as you shredder your work. Literally, put time into your calendar for things you enjoy doing without any productive purpose. Do not tell yourself that you will relax after you finish the project, because the work never truly ends. Put it in the calendar for today or tomorrow. Let people get close to you beyond just your functionality. Allow yourself to be seen emotionally. Tell a friend something real about how you feel. Risk discovering that people want to be around you for more than just your competence. Celebrate achievements that moment they happened. Don't immediately jump to the next goal. Stay in the moment of success for a minute, an hour, an evening. You earn it. Allow yourself to ask for help without review it as a weakness. Capricorn rising is the one who helps everyone else, but no one can function optimally without support. Asking for help is a skill and a sign of maturity, not incompetence. Look at where Saturn is in your birth chart, and because it's ruling your rising sign, note the sign, house, and placement of Saturn and the aspect it forms. Aquarius rising. What the world sees. This rising sign is unmistakable. There is something different, something non-conformist about them that shows up in their way of being, not necessarily on their clothes or hairstyle. You are visionary, progressive, and open to ideas that others haven't even considered yet. You are the friend who offers the most fascinating perspectives. You think in systems, trends, and global patterns. You carry the energy of a calm revolutionary, someone who doesn't need the validation of the crowd to stand by their convictions. People feel intellectually stimulated in your presence and are sometimes inspired to think differently. The hidden side, it's about emotional detachment that over time can leave them lonely even when are surrounded by many people. Aquarius rising loves humanity generally speaking, conceptually, in principle, and on the level of grand ideas. However, they can be distant and cold with individuals in particular, with the person sitting next to them. It is much easier to hold beautiful humanitarian principles about abstract groups than it is to be emotionally present with a single person crying right in front of you. The independence they value so highly can become a wall. Any commitment that feels like it limits their freedom triggers a visceral resistance. This sometimes leads to the sabotage of their own relationships and opportunities, even at the exact moment things are going well. There is also a tendency to be more loyal to ideas and principles than to people. What you can do? Practice complete emotional presence with a single person on a regular basis. not humanity. One person. Be there fully, emotionally, and without retreating into thought or analysis when the conversation gets personal. Explore the difference between independence and the avoidance of intimacy. Do you want to be free or do you want to avoid getting hurt? These are two different things. Allow yourself small routines of your own choosing, not routines imposed by others. Not every deviation from your standards is a betrayal of values. Invest in a few deep friends rather than just a vast network of acquaintances. Aquarius rising tends to be everyone's friend and no one's true friend. Look at where Saturn is in your chart, because Saturn is also your ruler. Note its sign, house placement, and the aspects it forms. Pisces rising, what the world sees. This rising sign possesses an etherical quality and an almost overworldly beauty. Your eyes have a deep, dreamy quality. You are empathetic, artistic, and spiritual, or at least open to unseen dimensions of life. People sense there is something beyond the surface in you. You are the type who picks up on the emotions in a room before anyone says a word. Your intuition is remarkable. You are gentle and sensitive to beauty in all forms, visual, musical, in words, and in small gesture. People feel understood in your presence, often without having to say anything. The hidden side is that this rising sign hides a chronic identity crisis, a genuine difficulty knowing who they really are, separate from others and the context they are in. Pisces rising absorbs the energies, emotions, and needs of others like a highly porous sponge, because the boundaries between themselves and others are so permeable, sometimes nearly doesn't exist. They easily lose themselves in others. They can become whoever their partner needs, whoever the group needs to them, or whatever the situation demands. After a while, they no longer know who they really are when they are alone. This can produce a profound discomfort with solitude, not because Pisces rising doesn't want alone time, but because solitude forces them to face with the question they don't have a clear answer. Who the hell am I? Pisces rising has a tendency toward escapism and building inner worlds parallel to reality. Fantasy, art, spirituality, and daydreaming are their refuges. Sometimes these are healthy and necessary. Other times they are a way to avoid the concrete responsibilities and frictions of life. There is also a tendency toward martyrdom, to play as a victim, always being the one who suffers, the one who sacrifices, the one that world doesn't understand. Pisces rising can also be difficult to pin down to a clear commitment, not out of malice, but because of the natural fluidity that makes concrete boundaries uncomfortable. What you can do? Practice daily consistent grounding. Engage in physical, concrete activities that bring you into your body and into your reality. Practice a sport, gardening, cooking, step by step, long walks in nature, or dancing. Establish clear and conscious energetic boundaries. Not all the pain in the world is yours to carry. Empathy is a very good gift, but a gift without boundaries becomes a curse that drains and empties you. If you feel you are coming second to someone else's needs again, voice it verbally. You can say everything you feel, and especially what you want from them. Cultivate a personal artistic or spiritual practice just for you. Look where do you have Jupiter, because Jupiter is ruling your rising sign. So see in which sign, house placement, and aspects it forms. So look in your natal chart, see where do you have the rising sign. I'm waiting your questions and comments down below. Until next time, I wish you all the best. Bye bye.